Okay. Welcome to the November 30th Planning Commission meeting in Little Rock. And with that, we'll hear roll call. Donna?
Chairman Berry.
Here.
Vice Chair Bubbas. Commissioner Bynum.
Here.
Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Dillon. Here. Commissioner Finney. Here. Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Leahy. Here. Commissioner Latour. Commissioner May. Here. Commissioner Stebbins. Here. You have 8 members present. You do have a quorum. And I'll read real slow on the consent agenda.
Okay. Do we have a motion for the minutes, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes dated October 12th, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to approve the minutes from October 17th? Is that 12, 2017. Those approve, raise your hand. Those opposed? Unanimously approved. Okay. Let's read the consent agenda, please.
Just so I'm clear, any cards on 8?
There are no cards on number 8.
9?
Unless
16?
we do have cards on
16 and 17?
16, 17, yes. 1, 9, 16, 17. Okay, thank you.
Little Rock Planning Commission consent agenda, November 30th, 2017. Items for consent withdrawal. Item A, file number Z-6323-X, the Village at Rawling Road, revised long form PCD, located on the southwest corner of Rawling Road and Rawling Circle. The applicant submitted a request dated November 14th, 2017, requesting withdrawal of this item. Staff is supportive of the withdrawal request. Item number 5, file number S-1073-L, Lot 4, Arkansas Systems Office Park, Subdivision Site Plan Review, located on the southeast corner of Arkansas Systems Drive and Chenal Parkway. The applicant submitted a request dated November 7, 2017, requesting withdrawal of this item without prejudice. Staff is supportive of the withdrawal request. Item number 15, file number Z-8716-A, 24201 Burlingame Road, revised short form PDO, located at 24201 Burlingame Road. The applicant submitted a request dated October 25th, 2017, requesting withdrawal of this item without prejudice. Staff is supportive of the withdrawal request. Items for consent deferral. Item number 11, file number Z-6783-A, 15723 Canis Road, long form PCD, located at 15723 Canis Road. And item number 12, file number Z-6900-B, House of Bethesda, short form PDC, located at 6900 Pecan Avenue. The applicants failed to respond to subdivision committee comments raised at the November 1st, 2017 subdivision committee meeting. Staff recommends deferral of these items to the January 11th, 2018 public hearing. Item number 18, file number LA-0074-A, Bowman Road at Executive Center, Advanced Grading Variance Request, located west of Bowman Road, east of Cherry Creek Subdivision, south of Cherry Laurel Drive. The applicant submitted a request dated November 21st, 2017, requesting a deferral of this item to the, to the January 11, 2018 public hearing. Staff is supportive of the deferral request. Items for consent approval. Item number 2, file number S-969-I, Chenal Park Center, revised preliminary plat, located at 15200 Chenal Parkway. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the following variance request. A variance from section 36-300 to allow lot sizes less than the ordinance typically allows. A variance from section 31-284 to allow the creation of pipe stem lots, lots 1 and 5. A variance from section 36-300E to allow a reduced side yard setback for lots 2, 4, and 5 of 15 feet, and a variance from the city's land alteration ordinance to allow grading of all 5 lots with a request for a grading permit and construction not being imminent on all lots. Item number 3, file number S-1798-A, Lamarche Place Villas, revised preliminary plat, located in the northeast corner of Forest Lane and Lamarche Drive. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance request from the city's land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the entire site with the placement of the basic infrastructure. Staff recommends approval of the variance request from section 36-254 to allow reduced front yard setback of 20 feet. Item number 4, file number S-1800, Swetland Subdivision preliminary final plat located at 17501 Colonel Glenn Road. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance request to allow the development of Lot 2 on a private street or access easement. Staff recommends approval of the variance request from Section 31-232B to allow Lot 1 to exceed the depth-to-width ratio of more than 3 times as deep as it is wide. Item number 6, file number S-1801, Quality Outdoor Products Subdivision Site Plan Review, located at 13215 I-30. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 7, file number Z-1791-F, 10 Candlewood Drive, long form PCD, located at 10 Candlewood Drive. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. And if I may, Pam, are you going to speak on item number 8? Pam Hancock, are you going to speak on item number 8? Davis?
Yeah, just shortly.
Okay. Item number 10, file number Z-6406-B, T-Mobile revised short form PDC, located at 12211 West Markham Street. Staff recommends approval of the request to allow an increase in the sign height and area as proposed by the applicant and as allowed in commercial zones. Item number 13, file number Z-7783-D, Miracle Development revised short form POD, located at 14923 Cantrell Road. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 14, file number Z-8559-C, Wildwood Place, revised long form PDR, located south of Denny Road on Wild Creek Circle. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance request of Phase 5. Staff recommends approval of the variance request to the master street plan to allow Wild Creek Circle to develop as a minor residential street. And we had cards on 16 and 17, right? That concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the consent agenda. As read by staff with all their staff recommendations, I'll hear a motion. And also, before the motion is made or voted on, for those that want to recuse on a particular item, be sure to Commissioner state and note that on one. I think Commissioner Leahy had one item. He did. So, I'm ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda. We have items 11, 12, and 18 deferred to January 11th of 2018. And everything else, according to staff's recommendations, is up for approval.
Great. Thanks. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read by staff with all staff recommendations. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear a
Commissioner Coos on item number 6.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leahy. Let the record note that. We have a motion been seconded to approve consent agenda. Those approve, raise your hand, please. Those who do not? Okay. Consent agenda has been approved. If you had that on consent agenda, you may be excused. And we'll transition to the regular agenda. If you have just came in and would like to submit a card to speak to the items on the regular agenda, which will be 1, number 8, number 9, and number 16, number 17, please do so, fill out the card, and bring it up to me. That would be great. Let's just take another second. Okay, that's 1. That is...
You're on regular. You were not on the consent agenda. Quindachi thought maybe his was read on the consent agenda, but it was not. That's the one Pam wants to speak on.
Correct.
You ready?
Eight. Okay. Just a minute here. Yes, please go ahead and start.
Okay. Typically, when there's only 8 commissioners present, you make your 8 commissioner
Yes,
speech.
I'd be glad to go ahead and state that procedure right now for the applicants. We are down to 9 commissioners, 8 commissioners in number. I thought we would have 9. Standing practice is when we have 8 commissioners, the applicant has the right for deferral of their item when it's called up to another time. And what else do I need to say about that? Oh, you need 6 affirmative votes to have your application passed. So that's why we do that. So, having said that, Donna, would you like to start with item number 1?
Well, do we want to check and see each one of them if they want to?
Yeah, I guess so, to
Save some
Save
folks
some
from
breath.
sitting here.
for applicants for item number 1, you've heard the option to defer if you wish. If you wish to proceed, okay.
Item number 8, you wish to proceed or you wish to defer to January the 11th? Okay.
Okay.
Item number 9,
Where's the applicant for number 9?
do you wish to proceed or do you wish to defer to January the 11th? It takes 6 positive votes of the commissioners. There are only 8 present, so that means you can only, if you lose, more than 2 votes, then you would be denied automatically. Your wait? Okay.
So 9's deferring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Item number 16, Gardner, forward. Item number 17, move forward.
Okay, then.
So if y'all are going to defer, then you can leave.
Did we tell them when it would be deferred to?
January the 11th.
Okay. Do we need to make a vote on their deferral? Okay. Should we do that now? Okay. We have a motion. Oh, no, we need a motion on deferral of item number
9.
9.
I will make a motion to defer item number 9 to January 11th, 2018.
Do I hear a second? Second. Good. We have a motion to defer item number 9 to the January meeting. It's been seconded. All approve of that motion to defer. Raise your hand. Those opposed? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Back on the beam.
Item number 1, file number S-1509-B, Valley Springs Cottages preliminary plat located on Geyer Springs Road and Valley Drive, north of Stillman Drive and south of Suzanne Drive. On January 5th, 2006, the Little Rock Planning Commission approved a request for a preliminary plat of this 28-acre tract allowing the creation of 79 single-family residential lots and 2 tracts for future development. The plat was not developed in the time frame established by the subdivision ordinance and expired. On June the 19th, 2008, the Little Rock Planning Commission approved a preliminary plat to allow the creation of 80 single-family lots. The lots were proposed with an average lot size of 8,250 square feet, a minimum size of 7,000 square feet. Once again, during that time, it was determined the right-of-way for Valley Springs Drive to the west was not dedicated, and there was no public access to make a connection to Valley Springs Drive for the subdivision. Once again, the development did not occur, and the approved preliminary plat for the site expired. The current request is for preliminary plat approval for the Valley Springs Cottages subdivision, which is proposed with 70 lots in the subdivision. The plat includes 4 tracts to be set aside for green space, drainage easements, swales, and storm management. The plat includes the placement of tracts along the rear of all the lots to ensure drainage easements are maintained. The applicant states Lot 70 is to be set aside for future development. Prior to the development, the applicant will seek the appropriate zoning and/or permits. Section 36254 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances defines the lot development standards for zero lot line homes. Lots are to be not less than 35 feet wide and not less than 4,000 square feet. The plat indicates the development of the subdivision with a residential street, Stillman Drive, containing 2,798 linear feet of new public street. No access to Valley Springs Drive to the west or Suzanne Drive to the north is proposed. Access will be via the new street extending from Geyer Springs Road and connecting to Stillman Drive to the south. The plat indicates the placement on one side of the street located on the north side of the street, entering the subdivision, crossing over near Lot 14 and changing to the south side. The plat also includes the placement of footpaths and trails within the open space areas of plat area. The Property Owners Association will be responsible for maintenance of the trail system. A note on the plat indicates the proposed pedestrian crossing table. Final design and placement will be submitted for approval by Public Works with the submission of the final plat. The applicant is requesting a deferral of the street improvements to Geyer Springs Road until the second phase of the development. Per the master street plan, one-half street improvements to Geyer Springs Road should include 5-foot sidewalks with a northbound left turn lane. The new back of curb should be located 29.5 feet from the center line. Tapers will be provided by striping. The northbound turn lane should provide 125 feet of stack and 75 feet of taper. Staff feels the required street improvements to Geyer Springs Road should be completed with the first phase of the subdivision. The applicant is requesting a variance from the city's land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the lots with the future phases with the placement of the basic infrastructure within phase 1 of the development. The applicant notes approval of the variance request will allow the site to balance and limit the need to haul materials over city streets during construction. Staff is supportive of the applicant's request. The applicant is seeking preliminary plat approval to allow the development of a zero lot line single family subdivision in compliance with section 36254 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance request from the city's land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the lots with future phases with the development of the first phase. Staff recommends the required street construction to Geyer Springs Road be completed with the first phase of the subdivision. And Mr. Overton would like to address the commission with some legal items and statements. But prior to the commission's taking the vote, the commission will be required to take 2 votes, 1 vote for the land alteration ordinance, variance request, and 1 vote for the preliminary plat.
Thank you, Donna. Council, would you like to tell us, before the applicant comes up, how procedurally we handle plats like this?
It's my understanding staff has determined that this preliminary plat meets all our requirements under our ordinances and under the regulations. And once that determination is made and staff has said that it meets the minimum requirements, the Planning Commission has no discretion as to whether that to approve or disapprove. You must approve it. That was the Richardson case, and you'll hear us refer to that. That's the Arkansas Supreme Court case, and it was decided in 1988. It basically says once you have enacted ordinances, it lets the public know and the developers know what standards they need to meet. And what if they meet those, the Planning Commission has no discretion as to approve or disapprove. They must approve. So as far as the preliminary plat, we're going to allow you to come up and you can speak, but no matter what you say, they have no discretion to disapprove this preliminary plat. So that's what the Supreme Court of Arkansas has held, and that's what we abide by.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Is the applicant here, please? Would you like to get up and speak or not, and yield time for those who submitted cards in opposition and address those? However you'd like to proceed. You have time.
I don't think it's necessary for me to speak.
Okay.
But I did want you to know that we're all here.
Okay, good. All right. We'll start with the cards in opposition. Pam Adcock.
Can we start with the neighborhood first?
Okay. We had 2 cards that they said they did not wish to speak, but they submitted cards. Barbara Strickland and Charlene Ackland. And they said they did not wish to speak.
One more.
Well, I've got 3 more. I got Ron Muse, Tony Miller, and Pam Adcock. You want Tony to go? Okay, Tony, come on up.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that the Allendale Association strongly opposed this project. It's the 77 lots of single homes have raised a number of concerns. The first is a matter of the excess water. When it rains on a normal day, a normal rainy day, we have water that's retained. And until the sun comes out or it gets a chance to absorb in the soil, it's there. We are hoping, we're not opposed to progress, but we're hoping that any project, they have sufficient drainage system in place, because we are the ones who are going to be in big trouble. From looking at some of the sewer drain caps that are already there, I have a picture of one, which I don't know if you want to see it or not, from listening to things that's going to be approved or not. The land would have to be raised at least 2.5 to 3 feet. And unless that drainage system is adequate enough, it's going to come back on us. And I'm sure none of us want to get flood insurance. So we also have a problem of, if the system is not adequate enough, the drainage system, we will have an increase in mosquitoes. That's going to affect everyone, from the Baptist church to the south of this place and west of the apartment complex, and of course from this subdivision, the north of it, Allendale. I went out and measured it roughly about 320 feet from where it looks like it will be the drive into this subdivision to the back of Saxony Circle. Now, some of that space is going to be taken up for the utility companies, and I just can't see much room for an adequate drainage system to hold the water. I could be wrong, but we need more time to deal with this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. I am going to ask staff of Public Works to come up after the other two speakers to address the drainage issues in general and specific to this application. But now we'll hear Pam or Ron. Ms. Adcock.
I'm Pam Adcock, and I'm president of Southwest Little Rock United for Progress, and I'm here to represent the neighborhoods in Southwest Little Rock. And I do understand what we're up against. I see my light came on. I've heard the speech. My 14 years sitting where you guys are, in fact, with you and you and you. And I was probably odd man out many times, because in my mind, planning is what I did. I planned for what I felt was best for a certain area. And I planned with the residents as to what they felt was best for their area. And a lot of times it didn't have to deal with Southwest Little Rock. I dealt with West Little Rock all over. So I do clearly understand that. I've had several discussions over the last several weeks with the developer, with planning staff, and with Public Works. We deal with flooding in Southwest Little Rock every time it rains, unless it's just a little sprinkle. Approximately 5 to 6 years ago, there was some drainage work done on that side of Chico, all the way down to Geyer Springs. So it opened that up and alleviated the flooding for those people before you get to this development. They still have some flooding, but it's not near as bad. But in the process of what has happened is you've got now a clear way for this water to come running down. But then when it hits Skyler Springs, it's like you took a water hose and you crimped it. And it stops. And it backs up. And there's nowhere for this water to go but up until it can, because it has to get to Fush Creek, which is completely off your map up there. So within the past 5 years, I've taken complaints from Rec Road. Now this is all down further the stream. Rec Road, Earhart, and Pinecone. I've got videos of water that literally flows through Miss Ruby's house on Pinecone. Now, I'm being told that the drainage and the 3 detention ponds and everything will probably help. It's definitely going to be fine for that piece of property, I think. Now, I'm no engineer. I depend on my engineer buddies to tell me that stuff. But what I'm really worried about is on further downstream. And I was told, and Mike Hood and I have been head-to-head with this flooding for 20-plus years. And what you're going to hear from him is, yes, it does. And yes, it needs work. But no, we don't have the funding. It's going to take more money than probably any of us could ever count the little commas in the string of zeros to fix what is needed for further development. My argument is putting the cart before the horse. Why keep developing in places that we know flood already? Because guess what? In a few years, when none of us are up here, whoever's here is going to be coming back going, what you did, now guess what? Add another comment to that string of money that we need to fix the drainage project. I know none of that probably means anything as far as a vote today, but I needed to get that on record so that when, not if, but when those other people come back with pictures and videos of water in their homes, then they can pull this record back up and say nobody was not warned, okay? Now, as far as approval of this application, there's a couple of things, and I sent you all a letter, and I apologize it came through probably about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but that's my life. The upkeep and care of the detention ponds and the walking trails and the green space, it's our understanding that the developer is going to eventually turn, when the project is finished, over to a POA or a neighborhood association. Being a neighborhood president since 1993, I can tell you that's not going to work. If the detention and the walking trails and the green space for Cloverdale would have been turned over to the neighborhood association, guess who'd be out there doing the mowing and stuff? Me and Mr. Leahy. So as assurance that that stuff will be taken care of, I would request that either it stay with the developer forever, or the developer forever add money, pay the POA or the neighborhood association, set up an account that fully funds any work that would need to be done. Because I know as a neighborhood president, there's no way I could get out and raise money, that amount of money, to take care of the property. That's one. Number 2 request that we'd have is no waivers given. None. Do your project. Do it right. Do us justice out there. Don't keep us hanging. Just get it and get it done. And I guess that's just about it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adcock. Ron Muse?
I would just like to echo what Pam has just said. As a neighborhood president myself for many years, it's almost impossible to think that all of this work could be done and live our lives, you know, also knowing that we have to take care of our property as well as the commons. I don't believe that, from listening to my fellow Ward 2 friends, I don't think that enough people know about this. Of course, it's moot now, but the neighborhood president did not get notification. They claim to have had 2 meetings where this was discussed, but not all the aspects for those in Allendale had the opportunity to hear the details of this plan or this plat. So I just add to the comments made previously that this does need some work. I also concur with Pam that the common areas should be the responsibility, if this goes forward, of the developer or an agent of the developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muse. Before I ask Public Works to come up here and address drainage issues, which seems to be the major issue, did the applicant want to address any issues before I do that? State your name and.
My name is Debbie Hart. I'm with DHTC Development. The only thing I did want to respond to, because I think Public Works will do a good job of talking about the drainage, because we will comply with all city requirements. The only comment I would make is we have asked for a variance on grading so that we can do all of our grading at one time, which would actually be better to the neighborhood and to our project. So I would like to speak to that. I think that, you know, as developers, we want to come in, we do want to be good neighbors. We want to make sure that we have a quality development for ourselves, for the folks that are going to live there, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods. And by allowing us to grade and keep that site balanced so we don't have to truck dirt in, that would be a better thing, we believe, not only for the site but also for the neighborhood. Because, as you all know, it's a lot of wear and tear on roads to bring in heavy equipment and to move that dirt around. And if we have enough on site, it would be beneficial to everyone. So I did want to speak to that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hood, I was wondering you could address 2 particular issues. I know the general drainage problem in that area is a concern, but also the drainage related to this application.
Yes, I did have a conversation today with Ms. Adcock. We had a long visit about some of the issues in the area. Certainly for the development at hand, we've made our comments very clear in the write-ups that we expect that the full complement of studies, hydraulic studies, drainage, including setting finished floor elevations in this new development will be done, so that what we build here today isn't a problem for people in the future, including the property surrounding it. Now that does nothing to address the downstream issues that were mentioned. Earhart, Rec Road, Pinecone are all subdivisions downstream. Some of them as far down as Baseline, at the far end of Baseline. And the city does have a long history of different problems in that area. Those subdivisions were constructed, probably many of them after World War II in the 50s, 60s, 70s, into that area. And almost in every case, they predate the flood insurance program, where studies were required to map the floodplain, the floodways, so that development was restricted in those areas that are flood prone. Well, these older subdivisions, now that we are more aware of that and these areas have been mapped, are large fringes of those subdivisions are in floodplain area and they are flood prone. We have a number of requests all through the years about issues such as yard flooding and even issues such as water on the floor of the house. We have half a dozen requests or more on file with us for major project improvements through the area. A lot of those improvements are going to require major channelization efforts of drainage ways. They're not simple things we can do with drainage pipes or regrading somewhere. They're quite extensive projects, and some of you are quite aware when you get into that kind of work, you're facing major permitting and environmental issues from the Corps of Engineers and sign-offs from numerous agencies, including the state DEQ. So it's a rigorous and expensive permitting process to get a major flood control project done. Certainly the city is mindful, and these requests are on file, and they'll be evaluated in the future. Today, though, that does nothing to grant any relief for the present concerns downstream. Perhaps the best thing I can add to that is we do require detention, and like I said, there will be a full hydraulic study done so that we know completely the impact. I might comment that the mapped floodplain line stops at Geyer Springs. That was the end of the study, and it did not go further to the west. And we're, in essence, have asked the developer, and they have agreed that they will do a study like that to assure that this development doesn't become one like others in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Appreciate that. Commissioners, comments, questions?
I have one question. For the applicant, do you have a mandatory POA that's going to be put into place?
Yes, we will have a POA.
Mandatory?
Mandatory POA,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leahy.
I was hoping somebody else would jump in there before this. I'm going to address the flooding out there, and I live in that area. If you people are not familiar with it, I live out there, and I know how it is to see water in your home when you can't get to it. Now, regardless, and I'm not up on the latest HEC program and drainage studies and stuff like that, but the problem is backwater. Regardless of what you do in this subdivision, it's going to flood. The houses are going to flood. That's the reason those manholes are up 3 foot above the ground, plus or minus. They're talking about they're up. The tops are all bolted on where water can't get in or out. And some of us live in that area out there are familiar with the big detention ponds or stilling basins on the sewer system out there. Now, when you sell these houses, and people move in, I don't know what the payments will be, probably going to be around $700 or $800 a month. FEMA decides that, hey, we missed that base flood elevation. And we restudied that area out there, and guess what? All of you are going to pay $200 a month in addition to your mortgage for your home. Then a lot of people are going to leave. I know, because that's what's happened in my neighborhood. If they got to pay flood insurance, they're gone. Valley Drive is shown on the master street plan as a collector street. And goes through, connects up to that private street next door. Now, you people that new here don't know, but I've done these developments myself, and I have always been required to stub that street on up there to that other part of it. Now, the city says, well, that's a private street over there, and we can't do anything about it. I'd say a nasty word, eminent domain, and go on. You can be right on through there. And we need it connected up to balance out the flow of traffic in that area. Now, I'm going to vote against this. And I heard council over there say I can't do that, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to be opposed to it. And then my next question to the council is, if those people that voted for it, the homeowners out there that lost their home because of flood insurance requirements, get together and sue, I don't want them suing me as being on this planning commission and support it. But I'll take a chance on voting against it on the city. And I was involved in the Richardson deal. I was here when that happened, and I know about it. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. Other commissioners? Any comments, staff? Well, before this does require two motions, and before we do it, I'll exercise discretion of chair just to say, for the record, and this is for the city board, and I'm not running for anything, so I can say this without fear, that we have really a bad policy of public financing public infrastructure, and we have inadequate infrastructure for growth and development. And it's crummy for residents because they have no other outlet to voice this except when there's an application come up. It's a crummy for applicants because they're not really responsible for that, and those are general issues outside their control. And it really puts the Planning Commission in a bad spot, and everyone else. And someday, Mike Hood will have a great public financing tool to address infrastructure and issues like this. But right now, we do not. Having said that, I'm entertaining a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve item number 1 with all staff recommendations and comments.
Dana?
Need to make the designation, please, whether it's a plat or the variance request.
Oh, I'm sorry,
First
yes.
motion is for the plat.
We need 2 votes. The first one will be for the plat.
And do I hear a second to approve the plat? We have a motion to approve the plat as written, and it's been seconded. Those approve of the plat, raise your hand. Those opposed? Okay. Okay.
The second one is to, for item number 1 with all staff recommendations and comments for the advanced grading.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the advanced grading variance, our waiver for that. Do I hear a second? Okay. Those approve of the motion, raise your hand. And those opposed? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that discussion. Appreciate y'all coming down. That finishes item number 1. We will move on to item number 8.
Item number 8, file number Z-3808-B, Davis Short Form PDR, located at 5210 Mapleville Pike. The applicant is requesting a rezoning of the site from C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District and R2 Single Family Zoning District to PDR Planned Development Residential to allow the development of the site with multifamily housing. The Phase 1 portion is proposed with 12 units. The building is proposed as a 2-story structure. Each floor will have 4 one-bedroom and 2 studio units, with the building totaling 6,000 square feet. A total of 18 off-street parking spaces will be provided and accessed by a new paved driveway from the existing drive apron on Mapleville Pike. Parking for multifamily is typically based on 1 1/2 parking spaces per unit. 12 units would typically require 18 parking spaces. A future phase of the development plan includes the complete rehabilitation of the existing residential house located on the site. The structure will be used as a residence and or a leasing office for the multifamily development. The office will serve as an activity center for the residents of the multifamily homes. The third phase of the development includes an additional 12-unit apartment building with the same design as the initial apartment building. With this phase of the development, additional paved parking will be added to accommodate the new units. The plan includes the placement of a 6-foot fence around the perimeter of the site. The plan indicates the placement of a 6-foot wrought iron metal fence with a remote control entry gate at the driveway. The plan also includes the placement of a 3-foot wide pedestrian gate adjacent to the vehicular use gate. There is a large wooded area which will remain on the site to act as buffer and screening to the adjacent properties to the north and west. The applicant is, however, requesting a variance from the land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the future phase with the development of the future phase of the apartment with the development of the first phase. Staff is supportive of the applicant's request. The site is located adjacent to multifamily on the northeast perimeter and commercial on the southeastern perimeter. The site is indicated on the future land use plan as RM, residential medium, which typically allows for multifamily at a density of 6 to 12 units per acre. As currently proposed, when fully developed, the overall density proposed is 12.6 units per acre. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance request from the land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the future phases with construction of the first phase.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant here? Do you wish to hear? We have one card in opposition. Would you want to hear that before you get up and speak to that? Okay. Okay. Pam, would you like to?
I knew I was the only card.
I think you're only card on this. So, Ron, did you do
Yeah,
a 2 for
yeah.
that too? Okay. Okay.
And I did send you a letter, so I'm not going to take too much of your time. We had a good meeting. He came to Southwest Apps, and I applaud him. He reached out to us instead of me having to chase around. He came to me. That was a plus. Yay. During the meeting, he stated that there would be a on-site manager 24/7, 365, and that the facility would not be a rehab housing. That's the two things that we've asked him, and he said yes. So to make it short, sweet, and to the point, we would like to have him state on record those two things so that we know that we're all on the same page as far as his development. The building was fine, the fencing, the landscaping. There was some concern regarding the closeness to the elementary school and the other apartments in the area because it seems to be saturated with apartments, and those apartments generate a lot of police calls. But his is 12 units, and then when he comes back, it's my understanding, and I may be wrong, but he would have to come back. Okay, so that is included in that. Where's the other building going to be? When he... Okay, so it'll be over, not in back? Okay, so even closer to the school area. But that was concerns that was stressed, that it was too close to the school, saturation of apartments in the area already. They would rather see single-family homes. Mostly, if it's approved, we do want those two conditions put to his application so that we won't have to come back and complain to you guys. Okay? Thank you.
Applicant?
Good afternoon.
Just state your name for the
Dino
record.
Davis. This is a project for affordable living apartments. I understand that she wants to put on the record that it's not going to be connected to a rehab. This is for anyone that is eligible and appropriate with our screening process that meet the requirement to move in to this apartment. It's not to a specific group of people. We will not discriminate against anybody. The other thing is that the crime area, at this time, there are 5, the existing structure that's there, there are 5 one-bedroom apartment units there. We've been there since 2008. There's never been a police call there. There's never been any, even an emergency services being called to this property. We haven't had any type of incidents to where it require the police to get involved at all with the tenants that's already there. So that's not connected. And with the other apartments that's in that area, we're talking about 12 units. The other apartments, I don't know what their crime stats are, or I just don't know that, but they have probably triple the amount of units that we're talking about building. We're talking about building only 12 units, which would be much more easier to manage than a large apartment complex. And I think we just want to provide affordable housing to individuals in that area. And we're not in where this area is not in the center part of Southwest Little Rock. We're right on it's not the outskirts, but right there at the border going into Southwest Little Rock. And we've always did well with the upkeep and the landscaping. There is a city drain that runs directly next to the property line. So we're just looking forward to trying to enhance the community and maybe, listening to there are too many apartments, maybe we can set a standard for what an apartment complex need to operate as. Just make sure it is 24, make sure that's the second phase. Yes. The first phase is the 12 units, and we will, the second phase is another 12 units, so it would be 24 units in all, which we think that is pretty much manageable, rather than to have 100 plus units in that area. But at this time, we've been doing a good job with the existing structure. The existing structure, what we want to do is we want to remodel it, revitalize it. I don't know how old that structure is. We're trying to find some historical records on it because we want to make it part of the community and make it similar to when it was built, as it connects to the new unit that we're trying to build.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We may have some other questions. Council, could you tell me conditioning, zoning to exclude rehab would violate fair housing, federal fair housing law? I'm not sure if that was a condition you wanted, or you wanted them to exclude people who can get rehab somewhere else but are living there. I don't know, but I just wanted to.
That whole conversation made me very uncomfortable.
Okay.
First of all, I don't like the negotiation of applications.
Right.
And I understand what your concerns were, and you're speaking on behalf of the neighborhood. But change the applications or asking this man to change something or limit something in his application so he can get approval makes me a little bit uncomfortable, because who knows, he may be making that decision in duress. Mm-hmm. Secondly, you don't want to start denying people housing based upon addictions. Now but to get a treatment facility, it has to be zoned for that, and I don't know what this current zoning is. Can you speak to that, Dana?
Mr. Davis does had an organization, Quality Living, that does focus on helping people overcome addictions. That's located elsewhere in town. It's located down off Asher Avenue, and this is not Quality Living related in the sense that it is not a rehab facility that would take a separate action by the Planning Commission to approve anything like that. These are simply one-bedroom and studio apartments. Could people come from anywhere in town, including Quality Living, to rent an apartment there? The answer is yes, because we're not going to discriminate against who lives in the apartments. But it is not a rehab facility that would take a separate action, separate vote by this Planning Commission to approve that.
Thank you, staff.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes. Oh, Chef.
Thank you.
Commissioners, questions, comments? Commissioner Latour.
It's more of a question of the applicant. There's been mention by both sides about having an on-site manager 24/7 and 365. Tell me about that.
In the existing structure that's already there, part of the remodeling of it, we're going to leave an apartment there for an on-site manager to manage the 12 units. Thank you.
I guess I'm a little dense. Does that mean you're actually going to have one, or you're just going to dedicate an apartment to it?
No, there's going to be an on-site apartment manager there, yes.
That's what I hear. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Other commissioners? Commissioner Leahy.
Thank you, Chairman. I kind of question that crime in that area, because I have two friends that live on just around 51st Street, and they don't tell me that same story. They say they're having police activity over there, and those are single-family houses living over there. And do these requests that we make, or he agrees to here, do they go with the land when he sells it? I caught you, didn't I?
I would say that would become, yeah, it would go with the zone. As far as the zoning regulations and those types of things, yes, they would run with the land. But if he's conditioning 24-hour management based upon approval from the board, no, that wouldn't run with the land. And I don't even know if it would be enforceable, because we don't require that from other businesses. So, yeah, it's a planned development.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't asking him to commit. I was asking him if his intention was.
Okay. Staff, do y'all have some additional clarification you want to make on that, Donna?
It would be a part of the approved zoning. It would be a part of the ordinance which approves the zoning, and it would transfer to the next owner and the next owner and the next owner and the next owner.
So it's a perpetuity thing. Okay. If it were so established. Okay.
Ms. Adcock, could you come back up for a question, please?
I just wanted to clarify, I wasn't asking you to deny people that need help. What we don't want to see is a completely whole new rehab facility within the area that close to residences and schools. You know, and I asked him at the meeting, could I come and rent? You know, and it's yes, and that's what we want. And the way things are going lately, I may need rehab shortly. But I don't, what I'm saying is, as long as I'm needing help, we don't need it right there. But once I'm good to go, then yes, we wanted to do that. And I don't think I clarified that enough a while ago. The apartment part, living there, is cool. Rehab in that, a 12-room rehab facility is not what we had wished for that area. And I think he made that pretty clear at our meeting. I don't know how I bumfuddled everybody up, but I did, and I just wanted to come back up and let you know that. So, and I've been on that side of the lawsuit too, so I understand that part. So,
yeah.
All right, thank you.
So we're clear for the record. This is not a treatment facility. It would have to go back through permitting for that. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, ready for a motion?
I'd like to make a motion on item number 8 with all staff recommendations and comments.
Okay.
For approval.
A motion for approval with staff recommendations.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. The first one will be for the land alteration.
Okay. You have a motion for the land alteration. That is a waiver, is that right? Variance. Okay. For this application, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Those approve of the waiver for the land alteration? Variance.
Not waiver.
Raise your hand. Okay.
And then I'd like to make a, well, I'm sorry.
Nope, we did. Now, a motion for the PZD. Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. Opposed.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? I apologize. I didn't have my Wheaties today. Are there any, for those who do not approve?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Was the vote clear? I apologize for that snub nub. Okay. That was 7-1.
All right. I would like to make a motion on item number 8 for the PCD approval with the all staff recommendations and comments.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of the PCD with staff recommendations. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second to approve the PCD. Those approve of the motion, raise your hand. And those who do not approve of the motion, raise your hand. Okay. We'll get that on the record. Okay, that was item number 8. We are going to start with item number 16 just a minute. Okay. All right, staff. When you're ready, tee up item number 16.
Item number 16, file number Z-9270, Gardner Short Form PDR, located at 900 North Polk Street. The request is a rezoning of the property from R3 Single Family to PDR Plan Development Residential to allow 2 homes on the lot. The applicant is proposing to convert a former non-residential building into a second residential unit, an accessory dwelling. The existing home located on the site will be rehabbed if the building is structurally sound. If found to not be structurally sound, the applicant is proposing to remove the existing home and construct a new home with a similar building footprint as the existing home. The applicant has indicated that the home will range in size from a building envelope would range in size from 1,000 to 1,600 square feet. The applicant notes there may be a desire to add a second level if the new home is constructed. Should the existing home be removed, the applicant's indicated a 5-foot side yard setback will be provided along the northern property line. The existing non-residential building is proposed as a studio apartment containing roughly 500 square feet. In addition to the existing structure will be placed along the western facade of the building to add a plumbing wall. This will then allow for the addition of a bathroom and allow for a kitchen to be added within the existing square footage. The addition is proposed as 8 by 16.4 feet. The applicant has also indicated that the existing garage will be removed and constructed back in a similar footprint as the current location. Staff is supportive of the applicant's request. The property is located within the Hillcrest Design Overlay District, which has specific development criteria related to building placement, coverage, and massing of the structures. The current and proposed development will comply with the massing and building coverage of the DOD. The setback for the garage and the non-residential structure do not meet typical setbacks required of the underlying zoning district or the DOD, but both are existing structures. Staff recommends approval of the request subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report.
Thank you, staff. We have the applicant here. Would you like to speak now or wait to hear for those who submitted cards in opposition, Mr. Gardner?
I'll speak now.
Okay.
Then I'll come back after
okay.
that.
You bet.
My name is Steve Gardner. I'm here obviously to request the rezoning of the site based on the number of structures that are on the site. The current zoning doesn't allow for 2 residential structures on the same lot. This is on the corner of obviously H and Polk. The old building on the front is an old corner store, probably built in the 40s or 50s. And because of that zoning, it doesn't allow me to rehab that without getting this rezoned. and I don't want to tear that building down. I live a few streets up, have lived around there for almost 20 years, and I've wanted to acquire that property for a long time for the sole purpose of rehabbing that old store. I met with Ms. James once I just purchased it to see what my options were. To bring that back to a commercial or residential, I thought it would be more appropriate due to traffic concerns to make that a residence, the old storefront, as well as rehab or build a new house on the lot. So that's my reasoning for the rezoning, and I'll defer everything else until after the opposition speaks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Lyle Cogbill, please.
Thank you, sir. I have a petition. Ms. James told me that I could submit a petition. We've got 50 signatures. Those are homeowner signatures that are in that area, immediate area. And the reasoning, or the 5 points that are pointed out on the petition for opposition of this zoning. And I'll have to say, my name is Lyle Cogbill. I've been in construction for probably 25 years. I worked for Bob East, Tom Harding, went on, did commercial construction downtown, project engineer, superintendent, went on to become a general contractor. I'm familiar with constructions. I know that residential is a little bit different, but I live across the street, and as many have been there for 7 years while this was a multi-family, multi-residential area. Police cars in and out of there every day, and everybody's sick of it. An improvement to the property would be to level it safely. Level the property, and that would be 100% approval to the property. The little shed that he talks about that was there in the 40s and 50s, there's no record of it. There's no historical record. It has no historical value to people that have been there 35 years. I asked them about it. Some people think it was a candy store at one time. Some people think it was a furniture store. It's been nothing but commercial / storage, you know, since the owner inherited it from his father. He moved from Louisiana in there about 7 years ago. We were hoping, and everybody that I talked to was hoping, that Mr. Gardner would build a single-family dwelling and make it look like maybe his house on Harrison and Hillcrest proper, or maybe, you know, something that blends into the area that's not a rental. Talked to 3 different. I talked to a good friend of mine who is a appraiser, and it will bring down the property values to have multi-family rental. Had I known you can't do that legally, I was told by Mr. Gardner that he didn't even need to get this done. He can go in there and remodel both of these things and put multi-family rentals. Donna told me that he can't. So that's the first point. It's going to bring down the property values in the area, which I'm one of the homeowners on that block, and everybody signed on that block, especially the people that are across the street or on the same street. If he chooses to sell it somewhere down the way, then somebody could turn that little shack or storefront looking thing into a home away, or put it on B2B business. I know that's graded by planning, but also was told by planning that about half of them aren't regulated. So you're right across the street from a school, so you bring in people that you don't even know who they are. I'm sure Mr. Gardner, he's got a son going to the school. I do. I have an 8-year-old going there. He'd be, cognizant of doing background searches on, I'd hope he'd be cognizant of doing background searches on the people that are renting the properties. But there's no guarantee that he doesn't sell it and somebody else is going to be responsible for doing it. Rector Philip Morris manages property in the area. They had to go back to do background check. I know because my 25-year-old son had to go down to the police station to get something corrected that was on his record that was not, for real. So everybody's concerned about that. The old storefront, you step out the front door, you're on the sidewalk, 6 feet away from the front of the house, thing, which is over the property line, which you just showed, is sitting on the sidewalk and is 6 feet from a fire hydrant. Fire marshal told me that, and I believe that you guys need to check, that if he rezones this, if he gets approval, the fire hydrant's going to have to be moved. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that this gets denied, along with everybody else that signed the petition. This thing creates a blind spot. Holy Souls students come down I Street, come across Polk Street, and I got a 4-way stop put in that area because the kids were risking their lives. They get out of school from St. Mary's, they walk down H Street. They get out of school from Holy Souls, they either come down H Street or I Street and come across Polk Street, and try to get through the menage of debris that was right there on the sidewalk. I'd have to call the city every week to get them to come remove it because the lot is too close to the street. It's too close to 8th Street. It's too close. It's on the sidewalk for Polk Street. Okay? So these students go to Fletcher Library, which has just been newly remodeled, and they spend from 3 o'clock until 5:30 for their parents to pick them up. They're walking up, you know, a blind street. Now, he puts in a multifamily on there, and I don't care what you call this. It may be multi-buildings on one lot, but it's still a multifamily residential. Now, I've seen people in not too far from his place that have 4 cars, 2 vans, a boat, and a motor home. I see people that are normal single-family dwelling that have 2 kids that are driving, so they got 4 cars. There is no parking on H Street. I do notice that the sign has been missing for about a month. I called Bill Henry with the city today. It'll be up tomorrow. There is no parking on H Street along that side of that south side of that lot. There's no parking on the east side because there's a fire hydrant there. So thus, he probably will have to get the fire hydrant removed to the other side of the street. If that building catches down, the fire marshal did tell me that, yeah, they would probably go to the one that's 100 yards away. All right, still creates a problem, a nuisance for the existing homes that are in that area. The old grocery store, 80-plus years old, and I know this because I did all the remodeling downtown, Heritage East, Heritage West, Arkansas Democrat, Old Oak Heart Building, everything downtown I did, I was a supervisor on. I've got people that work with me that I still see that are on disability because of the asbestos. And because we were tearing pipe insulation off of pipes in the Heritage Building, Heritage West and Heritage East, and it had asbestos in it. We didn't find out, you know, for 5, 6 years till they asked us to remodel the Kramer Building, and we found out. You've got students. My son sits and stands right there at that fence, 30 yards from that, 20 yards from that front door of that place, and he told me that he doesn't have to hazmatically clean them because residential doesn't require it. I don't understand why Arkansas is the only state in this area that's like that, but anywhere else you'd have to get that hazmatically cleaned. So I'm in the process, submitted it, Public Works. There'll be a sidewalk going from, it's going to be either on that side of the street, wherever they choose. It's coming from Francis Allen. There'll be a school crossing either across to the other side of Polk Street. And that sidewalk will continue through my front yard, which I have very little of it, all the way up to Fillmore for the kids that I see walking up the street every day in lines, 20 or 30 of them. And you got oncoming traffic coming over that hill. That's not his concern. But the concern is if he tries to get waivers on the parking, which I don't think he can because I talked to Bill Henry today, and he said there's not enough room on that street. There's no parking on the north side from Tyler all the way to the corner of Fillmore on the north side of the street. So that means he's going to have a 2-car garage with 2 residences that could have potentially 7 cars and people parking on the street. They'll be forced to park on the south side of the street. Mr. Bob Blackhart's, who's on the petition that I gave you, Blackhawken, excuse me, as he parks 1 car on that street. I have, enough parking for my family, and we've got, 2 driving kids and everything, but he's not going to have any parking other than that little garage that he's going to modify and turn into a 2-parking garage or pull the cars straight up into the drive and leave them sitting there. There's no parking on the street. So I got, I tried to petition the school. Had I not just had the 2 days, I got this notice on the Thursday before Thanksgiving week. Had my son not been there, I wouldn't even have known about this because it would have sat down at Brady Station. I called Donna on Tuesday. She was out, I think, on Monday. She told me what to do. I got a petition together, and I went through the neighborhood for 4 days, getting signatures, maybe 30 minutes at a time. And I got 50 households. That's 100 people or 100 homeowners. So I've got pictures, if you want them, of the property in question. And the intersection that I'm talking about that's blind, he says he's going to cut down shrubs. But it doesn't matter. It's 9 feet from the H Street curb and gutter. This is a copy of the garage that he's going to re-put the platform on. Looks to me like it's sitting on the property line, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, excuse me, if you're addressing the commission, you need to come back to your microphone, please.
As you can see from the pictures, it creates a blind spot for any of the kids coming down I Street. And I apologize for being out of order there. It creates a blind spot, and I've been watching the cars because this four-way stop's been in there for 6 months. They don't stop. They come over that hill going eastbound, and why in the world they didn't have a children traffic sign up at the top of the hill, I shamed the traffic people into putting one because the kids were going to get killed. And if we start having multiple parking on the south side of the street because he's got people there that are coming to visit that section on the north side of the street, and they don't have enough off-street parking, it's going to create even more hazard until the sidewalk gets put in. When the sidewalk's put in, there will be a school crossing from the corner, southeast corner of his lot to the other side of the street on H Street. There'll be, if it goes through my yard, like I assume that it will, and not on his side of the street, then there'll be another school crossing going from Bob Blacklocken's house, just opposite that house on Polk Street, to the Francis Allen sidewalk. Okay, so I'm doing all that I can to protect, the students there, but I don't want to see, a bunch of kids come down with asbestos like some of my employees did, or have any other contaminants like lead paint, 40s, 50s, 60s, VA tile. There could be pipe insulation in the walls. There could be asbestos insulation in the walls. There's a school right across the street. I know you don't have plans for doing, to cleanse that stuff and get it out of there the right way like they do in other states, or like you make us do commercially downtown. Then, they spent 80 grand to pull pigeon crap out of CJRW, all right? No telling how much bird poo-poo is in, that garage sit there for 5 years with an open window. I don't know that there's screens on the attic space of all those buildings that are in concern. I recommend that at least before you make a decision on this, you drive by this place, and you'll see all the kids standing right there in the corner, right across the street from that shed that has no historical value whatsoever. And I ask a lot of people that have been there 35, 40 years. Questions?
Thank you for comments. We have a gentleman, Robert J. Black Oaken. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Robert Black Oaken. I live at 824 North Polk, which is just south of the property. And I am probably, on most respects, agree with Lloyd and what his concerns are. I've been at that residence for 20 years. I've dealt with the traffic. I've had 4 kids that have attended Holy Souls School. I have one left, a 5th grader. And probably the biggest concern I have with that property is the asbestos. And, I don't know, under the development plans, is he going to be required to have a asbestos contractor remove this stuff? Because there's a lot of contractors, would-be contractors, that would go in and bid on a job like this and go in, and from what I understand about the asbestos is that once you disrupt it and it's in the air and it's all over the place and it's landing in my front yard where me and my son play football, play catch out there, the ball's going across the street. I mean, what are we going to be picking up? So, I'm all for the development. I think it'd be a great idea, and I mentioned this to him, Steve, in passing, that, why doesn't he just level it and make something beautiful like he's done on the other properties? It's good for everybody. He could do a nice driveway in there and, do the garage, make it, super nice. with the multifamily dwelling, if he does sell it, you know, what's going to happen, who's going to, what, you know, just like Lloyd said. And that's all I have to address the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, would you like to get up there and speak to the issues raised, please?
I'll kind of go through it. I've talked to Lyle before. When I bought the property recently, he came across and talked to me about he had tried to buy the property as well to develop it, to put a single family house there. Some of the information, and we have spoken about this, was not accurate. I do not plan to keep this property as a rental property. I'm working with an architect to design a home. I'm a home builder. I've got Gardner Custom Homes, and I've got a development company called Dakota Development. That's what I do. And the reason I wanted to get this is because my son does go across the street to the school. I live in the area. I want to rehab this. To say the old storefront doesn't have historical value, it is not on the historical registry, and it's not available for historic tax credits because of the location. That doesn't mean it's not historic in the sense that it's been a neighborhood store for a number of years before it is now vacant. But my plan has been the plan from day one. I'm going to develop the property. I'm going to rebuild or build a new house where it is and sell the property. It is not multifamily. The price point and the style of that house will not be one that will be the single family main house, will not be designed or sold as a rental property. If they choose to rent the space in the front yard, the old storefront, that would be the new owner's decision to do that. They could use it as a multimedia room for older kids, aging parents. There's multiple things that you could use that storefront for, shorter besides rental property, or they could rent it out. I just don't want to tear it down and lose that piece of property. The second issue is discussed twice, is asbestos. I have no knowledge that there is asbestos in that old building. There are no floor tiles in the building. It's a concrete floor with a wood structure on top. There is no plumbing. There is no insulation in the walls. I've already gone through it. To my knowledge, there probably is lead paint, as there is lead paint on any structure that's older than 30, 40 years in Hillcrest. Again, my main goal is to develop it, build a kind of house that I normally build in Hillcrest, which is a period home. I'm working with the Hillcrest architect to design that right now. What I'm doing is trying to get approval to go forward with the project to do that very thing, build the home, rehab the storefront, and sell the property. The other points I will address. I don't know that they necessarily affect the fact that I'm requesting the two residences on one property. The fire hydrant, I don't have to move that. I have met a firefighter over there that sees no problem with the location of the fire hydrant adjacent to the current structure. It has never been historically a problem and does not see a problem going forward. Parking, with the garage where it is, the driveway that I'm going to put in, there'll be plenty of parking in the back or on Polk further down away from that fire hydrant. I just want to make sure I've got, again, it's not historic as far as the historic registry is concerned. It is historic, in my opinion, that has been there for about 80 years, and I don't see any reason to tear it down just because it's old. If that was the case, we could tear down all kinds of houses in Hillcrest, which I'm opposed to doing as well. And that is all the points that I have. Any questions for me?
We'll see. Commissioners, questions, comments, please.
I have a question regarding the petition that was passed around. I understood once that was, you had communicated with some of the folks that had signed that some of them had rescinded their opposition to the development. Is that true?
I have talked to about that. I think some of them were, told about the asbestos and the fire hydrant and the parking, none of which, in my opinion, has to do with my request of just trying to leave the two structures that are there or build a new house where the other structure is. And there was some confusion about really the scare of asbestos. My child goes to school there. We play there every day. I would never do anything construction-wise with my company or personally that would negatively affect a neighborhood, school children, or my family. So that's the case.
Question.
Good
Mr.
word.
Dillon.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
There were several emails that were provided to you in your package this afternoon, and just kind of skimming through some of them, they had indicated that they had signed the petition, but they were now taking back their opposition and were now in support.
Commissioner Dillon?
Okay, this one really throws me because we have never allowed 2 homes on one lot.
It's a house and accessory dwelling. I mean, you mother-in-law quarters, you do it all the time.
Yeah, that's true. And that's what I was going to say about Hillcrest. There's lots of garage apartments and there's lots of that there. But I don't think that they started off that way. So, on top of the fact this one does kind of sit over on that sidewalk, I just don't, it's a 140-foot deep lot, 55 wide. I'm just not seeing 2 houses. That's just my opinion.
Well, again, it's not obviously 2 separate houses. The main house will be about a 2,500 square foot a period house that would fit the lot, short of obviously the front 30 or 16 by 30.
Other commissioners' comments? Commissioner May, you grew up a few blocks down there and survived.
Not only that, my wife went to Holy Souls, and I won't mention her age, but she's about as old as that building, I think, because we're 80. I lived on C Street for 4 years. The first 4 years we were married, but where my wife grew up, we maintained that as rental property. And I don't imagine there's an ounce of, in that building, of asbestos. I've been in that building many times when it was selling penny candy. Most every house in Hillcrest has got asbestos in the furnace. And if you're going to level the thing, you're going to disturb more than if you rehab it, would be my thought. But I've got mixed emotions on what to do, but anything you do with it would be better than what's there because it's an eyesore.
Correct.
I've had children, I've had grandchildren go to Holy Souls. I'm a Methodist. I even go to Holy Souls every Saturday. I've been married 56 years. That's another story, but we won't go there. Are you going to make a residence out of the old candy store? Is that?
That's correct. I want to make that into a detached building.
Going to make a larger.
I'm going to add about 7 feet to the back so I can put a bathroom in it because it doesn't have plumbing in it now.
Right.
So I want to add a bathroom to it so it can be a standalone apartment if the new owner wants it to be an apartment.
But your point is to build 2 single standing. I can buy one and Craig can buy one.
Oh, no. The property won't be split. It will be sold as it is now with just 2, as it is now with 2 buildings on that property. I won't split that property and sell them independently. It'll be purchased by the same person.
Oh, you're just going to have one. So you're going to have, in essence, as you say, mother-in-law's quarters.
That's correct. That's correct.
That makes more sense.
Other commissioners' comments?
Get in here. I don't want to lose a chance.
Oh, Commissioner Leahy, and then Commissioner Latour.
I got a question. I used to live out there. Is H Street east and west or north and south?
East and west.
Well, it changed, and they got it showing being north on here on your sketches. Is he required to donate any more right-of-way on any of these streets out there? Is that, y'all just shake your head yes or no when you want to come up here? Okay, you don't have to have any more right-of-way. All right, what about the setback from the existing lot lines? Is he required to do a setback?
If he rehabs the existing single-family, obviously not on the candy store because it's existing, so he's just going to tie onto the edge of it and go on. If he rehabs the existing single-family house, no, there'll be no change in the setback. If he builds a new house, then he will comply with the setbacks of the R3 zoning district, which are 25 with, as well as a 5-foot, along the north property line.
Yay. You know, I've advocated this a long time, that we need to have that fire marshal down here at the review committee to settle these things. And my experience has been that this fire hydrant's got to go. But I'm not saying what they would do out there, but everyone I've worked on like this, that fire hydrant had to go. That's the reason I'd like to have that fire marshal here, where he could, and we'd settle it in person right then.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. Commissioner Latour.
I was all for you here I was all for you to kind of derailed here at your last comment. You're going to take the candy store and make it into a dwelling unit.
That's correct.
Then you're going to build a house.
That's correct. Or rehab the existing house that's there, or build a new one.
So you're going to have one 2,000 foot type thing, one 700 foot.
500, that's correct.
And then you're going to sell the property as a whole.
That's correct.
What restrictions are there, if any? Maybe it's a question of staff. Could you start renting out the mother-in-law house? Now, we've done them, but it's been for a mother-in-law or I mean, when you start getting into putting two things on a property and one of them ends up being rental, I get a little concerned about that.
Are you going to be? Is it going to be separately metered?
Yes.
Okay.
The water is not. The water will be on the same. Yeah, I take that back. I don't know that. The water meter will not be separately metered. It will come through one meter. The electrical meter will probably come from the house and then piped over to the structure, not to have a separate meter on that. But I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question. I'm not clear on.
What would stop somebody, if I might think, what would stop me from turning the candy store into an Airbnb thing and renting it out? What would stop me from renting that to
As far as a regular tenant, an actual yearly tenant, there's nothing that would stop you from that. That's kind of what I want that option to be if somebody wanted to rent that space. The Airbnb issue on a monthly, I think there's restrictions that you have to get approval.
That's a different zoning.
My goal with that is, in the initial, the whole process is to not tear down the old storefront. I'm not trying to turn it back into a commercial location. I'm trying to do something with it to not have to tear that down.
I would clarify, I live in Hillcrest, and I potentially could rent out my garage apartment if I wanted to, or even Airbnb. I mean, that's all over Hillcrest. I don't really see that as an issue of a rental. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes, Donna.
Separate meters or not separate meters?
It's for sure not separate water, but I'll say not separate meters. We're not planning to meter it separately. The way that the power comes from the back and will hit the main house and underground from there to the apartment, and the water meter is on one meter in the front.
Okay, so not separate meters on
correct.
Electrical or water?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, half the houses in Leawood, you can tell where I live, in Hillcrest, have a garage apartment now.
Oh yeah. I get people
you can
asking
do
me
that
all
at
the
your
time.
house right
Yeah.
now. I don't see why we're even discussing. I don't know why you would have to. You could buy these and rehab them and do exactly what you want to do without any.
Yeah, Commissioner May, I think what trips people up here is this instead of being behind the house like a garage, it sits on the corner. Now, I personally don't have a problem with that. I walk by this. I live in the neighborhood. I walked by this house the other day for the turkey trot, and I drove by it there during peak hour school time, and where cars are stacking up, and that's a different issue. But that's, these are issues all over Hillcrest. We're going to get a motion here in a minute. I know it's challenging, but I think the use is appropriate, and it's a positive move. It's just an innovative way of doing a residential development and housing. So, any other questions? We'll go for a motion. No, we're, you had plenty of time. It's, okay, sorry.
Well, I talked to the fire marshal. He talked to the fire
Well, I know, but we didn't get the comments we asked for fire department, and they say no comment. So without them formally commenting, we can't really speak to what you got anecdotally from a fire marshal.
And Hillcrest overlay is good with this, I'm assuming.
As far as the DOD?
The overlay district.
I have met with Brian and talked about that.
With the HRA?
It was fine.
Mm-hmm. If they're opposed to it, they will say.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. All right, let's call the question. Someone want to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion for approval of number 16, item number 16, with all staff recommendations and comments.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the item number 16 with staff recommendations. Do I hear a second? Okay. Those approve of this motion and this application, raise your hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, so 7-1 passes. Okay. We move on to item number 17, please, staff.
Item number 17, file number Z-9271, Rick's Short Form POD, located on the south side of Cantrell Road in the 16900 block of Cantrell, approximately 325 feet east of Drew Drive. The request is a rezoning of the site from R2 single family to POD Plan Development Office to allow the construction of a new 2-story office building on an existing 1.3 acre parcel. The uses are proposed as O1 Quiet Office District uses. The building is proposed containing 13,400 square feet of floor area. Plan indicates a placement of 36 parking spaces. Property is located within the Highway 10 Design Overlay District, which has specific development criteria related to setbacks, parcel size, and landscaped areas. The minimum lot size for a development per the overlay is 2 acres. As noted, this property contains 1.3 acres. With the exception of this, the development fully complies with the overlay with regard to the 100-foot building setback, the 40-foot landscape strip, the 30-foot side yard setbacks, and also the 25-foot side yard landscape strips. Staff is supportive of the applicant's request. The site is indicated on the city's future land use plan as suburban office, which is designated for low-intensity office development located in close proximity to lower-density residential areas to assure compatibility. The applicant is proposing to place the office building utilizing the existing O1 Quiet Office District uses, which are also intended to be located near low-intensity residential uses. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report.
Okay, applicant here, please. Joe White. Okay. You want to say anything now, or you want to wait and reserve to?
Well, I've visited with the two gentlemen that are here, and I think I know their concerns. But let me just step back and I'll respond.
Okay. Okay. Austin Chatelain? Chatelain? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Austin Chatelain. I'm here on behalf of my in-laws, Jerry and Linda Arrington. They own the property sort of south and, if you have the larger scale, kind of south and east of this piece of property. And I'm also here with my friend Clark to express concerns about not necessarily the development itself. I think it's a great use of the space. I think it being a quiet office zoning is great. But currently, I might also add, I'm an architect by trade. I have my own firm that operates in West Little Rock, and just mention that to say, based on the just the drawing, the only drawing that I've seen, that drawing didn't make us feel very good about the current flooding issue that's happening right there at Highway 10. I don't think the issue necessarily is with this property. It's with the previous development. It sounds like it came through maybe August of last year. There was a residential development there, and yeah, that one there. And we had looked at actually renting one of Clark's buildings to store some of our stuff, and my father-in-law has a roofing business for his use as well. And we were touring the property with Clark and noticed it had flooded. His barn was flooded, and that was the first time he had noticed it. And this was end of July, I believe. And then June 3rd, we had a downpour, went out there and just to observe, okay, how's the water working on this site? And the basically the entire site there that's in red was completely flooded. It was basically acting as a sort of a shallow wet pond. And then the culvert that goes underneath the road there, it was completely overwhelmed, and the water was cresting, nearing Highway 10. And I've got a few photos here that I'll hand you if you guys want to look. The last photo, number 9, shows the actual property itself during that rain event on June 3rd. But long and short of why I'm here is just to bring to y'all's attention that there's a major water issue, and based on how this building and the parking lot is laid out, what that plan tells me is it's going to put even more water to the east and more water towards Mr. Phillips' property and my in-laws' property, which is concerning, and it could even potentially back up to what is that, Long Leaf there to the south. But you know, I think the use is appropriate, and I think it'd be a great development. We think it's a great opportunity, really, just to fix the problem that's occurred based on this other development.
We have that video that you gave me. Do you want us to show that?
Sure, yeah. If you've got it, I emailed Donna a video of that June 3rd event.
Okay.
That I took.
Cue it up.
This was after the water had already started receding. That's the property right there. Where you see the fence, that's the property. And it's completely overwhelmed, that storm drain. This is Mr. Phillips' property I'm walking over to. And again, this is after it's already receded. It's on its way down when I thought to actually start taking video. But I think this is a great opportunity to fix the problem. And I think Mr. Phillips will, you know, I can't speak for him. His property that got flooded, but
okay.
Just so you know.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Clark Phillips, please.
Good evening. I'm Clark Phillips, 12 Epernay Circle. I'm here on behalf of my father, who actually he's going to be celebrating his 84th birthday tomorrow. He's at home tonight, wasn't able to come. I do have some things I'd like to go ahead and submit. I did meet with Vince Florini, came out there, graciously came out there and discussed the issue with him. He said he referred me to Joe White, who Vince had indicated Joe spoke with my father about the matter. Dad's done a lot of development, construction, surveying, civil engineering, and done quite a few things. Anyway, that's not the point. So he referred me to Joe to take care of it. Said Joe had indicated Joe spoke with my father. So I asked my father. No, he never called. Nobody ever got in touch with him. I asked Joe. I was at his office that day. He and Mr. Dater as well. And I said, have you spoken with my father? He said, yeah. I said, well, when was that? He said, oh, about 10 years ago, we contacted him to try and buy the land. And so anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that really, so what we've got there, there's pictures in there that he's got the property, adjoining property. They share a common line there to the east of the subject property. Dad's got 3 buildings out there. And those. That first one right there is, I've indicated number 1 on those maps, and then 2 is the one back there. So what they did, there was a creek, and I've taken care of this property for years and years now. Know it like the back of my hand. There was a creek in there. There's a picture, and it's, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet. I could go down there with my 5-gallon bucket and dip water out of it if I was doing things. And so y'all approved the subdivision, George Ann subdivision last year, and then doing so, they widened for storm drain for the runoff water, widened it. I bet it's 100, 150 feet wide, 12, 15 feet deep. And y'all allowed this to happen without requiring them to carry that water on out to Highway 10. So there's 100, 150 feet where that water is choked off, and there's no way. So what it's done, it totally encompassed that building 1 2 times since this has happened, and I asked them if they would come in there, resolve the problem, bring a backhoe in there. That the ditch, the creek is not on our property. The property line everything is on their line, Mr. Rick's property, on the other side of it. And what needs to happen, what I would like to ask happen. I mean, I'm not against it, but let me back up. The building pad, the elevation of that property, the subject property right now, is about the same elevation as that front building, the building number 1. And so if they come in to get that building pad, what they're wanting to do to get it up, it's probably 10 or 12 feet below the gutter line of Highway 10. So they're going to need at least 10 or 12 feet of fill in there, compacted fill, to get that up to build on it for their drainage purposes. And all that's going to do is create more water problems down on us. We had Mr. Chatelaine, his father-in-law, again's in the roofing business, and we were going to enter into contract for him to rent the thing. And upon inspection, we went in there, and there was water line. I mean, it was 6, 8 inches up. You could see it. I wasn't aware of it. And Austin was the one that brought it to my attention, and nobody's going to enter into contract to rent that thing with the possibility. It's flooded twice already since this has happened. I mean, so anyway, what I would like to see before anything is approved, to get a backhoe out there, clean that ditch out, and let's see how there's 3 or 4 concrete box culverts under Highway 10 right there, and get a backhoe out there and clear that out and do some dirt work and drainage work to at least carry that ditch on out to those culverts, and then see how the water is handled at that point, and then make a decision. Is that even enough to carry the water on out of there? We're not in objection to the proposal. We want to be sure our interests are looked out after, that we're not the dumping ground for all of that water that's coming out of it. It's unreal. You can see by the pictures, one of them Steve took is looking back where all the water is. It's looking back at that second building on the back of our property, and that water it has overflowed the banks, and it was a mess. And even Vince Florini came out and took pictures. It totally encompassed the building, and there was debris up on the chain link fence on the other side of the house. I mean, somebody could drown in that thing very easily. So that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Phelps, for those comments. Mr. White, would you like to get up and address some of those issues?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Members of the commission. We've got a lot of history in this drainage basin. And if you start at Highway 10 and work south, Georgian, then there's about a 5-acre development. Well, let me back up. Jet Ricks is here with me today. This property has been in Jet's family for 60 plus years. Jet actually grew up here, and it's off the map, but just to the south of Georgian, he built a house, and they lived there for some years. So, to the point, the drainage, basically it's a creek that's been improved, and we've done it all the way along Georgian, past the 5 acres where the house is that Jet built, into Valley Falls, and into the 2 neighborhoods that Chenal developed. And so everything is improved except the last 270 feet to get to Highway 10. And that's what we need. You know, we've got the land use says it's suburban office. This POD will help us fund the improvements. It does need to be improved. But there's more to this, and we've had some really significant rains, 3 this year. The 2 main houses, and by the way, I've known Chester Phillips for 30 plus years and went to school with his brother Sandy. So there's a lot of history here. But the house up on the corner, the main corner, does not flood. Water gets all the way around it, but the floor grade is above Highway 10. The house to the south that Mr. Arrington owns, Austin's father-in-law, it does not flood because it's above Highway 10. The barn, which is behind, right there, thank you, Walter, and then there's a shed just to the southwest, that right there, those flood. And they're going to keep flooding because they're below Highway 10. And when we get a rain event that exceeds the capacity of the box culvert under Highway 10, the water's going to go over Highway 10, and you better have your floor grade above Highway 10. It's going to happen. And we've had, 3, it was really strange we had the 3 this year. Then you go pretty far back. I think it was 2011 in the spring we had a real significant rain, and it went everywhere. But what's happening is the water's coming down the channel. It's been improved, and then it hits this last little bit, and it's just wooded. There's no creek there. It's what we need to be able to do. And if Walter, if you'd flip back to the site plan, you see Tract B. That's part of Georgian. That's where that ditch comes through. And the reason our building is pushed so far to the west or the left is because the western part of this property needs to be the ditch that gets finished and down to 10. And when we do that, when the water gets to that point, it just won't jump out of the ditch and go everywhere. And that's what's happening. We can't really fix the barn that's low and the shed that's low. They're just built below Highway 10, and they're going to flood. So this plan development will help us, whether it's Jet developing and leasing or someone else comes along, the zoning will help us fund the project to improve the ditch, and that's what we need to do. That's the next step for us. We've got the land use. The next step for us is zoning. Once we get that, we can go to construction, and these guys are right. That ditch needs to be improved. It does, and this will help us get it done.
Thank you, Mr. White. Does Public Works want to have you say on this? Drainage seems to be quite the issue tonight. You don't have to. Well, let's just go into questions and comments then.
Well, Commissioner, I wanted to remind the Commission that Highway 10 is controlled by Arkansas Department of Transportation, and any culvert that goes underneath Highway 10 would be their responsibility to repair, and we would not require that of anybody. That's theirs to do.
Okay, thank you I knew that and I forgot that. Thanks. Seems like more and more we are seeing that houses were built outside Little Rock along this way years ago that were built below grade are going to be smitten with flooding for foreseeable future. Any other questions, comments, commissioners? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion on item number 17 for the approval of all staff recommendations and comments.
Okay, we have motion to approve application with staff recommendations. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Those approve the motion, raise your hand. And those who do not, raise your hand. So we have 8-0. Application passes. Appreciate everyone's indulgence tonight. We do have a little time for citizen communication. If not, we are adjourned.